Webinars are really powerful, especially if you want to use them to sell more of your courses, coaching, or consulting offers. Welcome back to Marketing Tools and Tech. Today we're talking about 5 steps to run a successful webinar. The first step is to remind your people. So you want to make sure that those people that you got to register for your webinar, that they actually show up. So don't be shy about reminding them that it's happening. To do this, you can send an email on the day before, on the day of, 5 minutes before, and then if you'd like, even 5 minutes after. I've got about a 4-part email series that I like to send out, and I want to make sure I send out each of those emails. That is the first email to say, hey, you're registered. Then I send another email saying, hey, we're getting started tomorrow. I send a third email on the morning of to say, hey, your webinar is tonight. And then I send a fourth email about 5 minutes after we've already started to say, hey, we're started. That's at a minimum. I also like to use a messenger bot. So I'll use like a Facebook Messenger in order to send a message to say, hey, we're about to get started, especially if I'm doing like a live stream or something like that instead of an actual full webinar. If I'm doing something like that, I really like to remind my people. So that's the first step to running a successful webinar. Now, the reason that I like to send my email 5 minutes after the webinar starts is because it allows you to take care of any tech issues. And that brings me to my next step to run a successful webinar, which is get your tech together early. Test out your tech. This is Marketing Tools and Tech. So I understand that sometimes tools and tech, they don't work the way that you want them to. So what I'd like to do is I like to go in, I like to make sure that all of my tech is running. I'll do a test run to make sure everything is going the way that I want it to. And even if you do a test run, sometimes it still doesn't work the way that you want it to work. But it's important to understand that doing that test run is going to be helpful. So don't leave it out. Definitely do that tech test run. The tech that I like to use to run my webinar include Open Broadcaster software along with Facebook Live. I've also used Zoom webinars in the past, as well as Google Hangouts like YouTube Live in order to run a webinar. I like to make it very simple for my live webinars just because I want to see the comments in real time. In the past, I had used a software where I had to have a comment plugin, and I really just want something that's simple and native and easy to use. So that's what I use for my tech. Even when doing that, sometimes it's difficult to get that tech working, but doing those tech run-throughs will help you. The third step in order to run a successful webinar is to get interaction. So webinars can get really boring really fast. That's why I've created an anti-webinar script, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But webinars can get really boring, especially when you're covering a topic. Even though people are interested in it, if you're covering a topic that's pretty dense and something that's hard to learn, for example, how to create a webinar sales funnel, I mean, that's a pretty heavy topic. So you want to keep their attention from the very start. There's a specific formula that I like to use. I call it my anti-webinar script, and it really runs through and it helps keep people engaged from the start all the way to the very end. Now, I'll tell you a little bit more about that by the end of the video, but it's important to understand that you've got to keep your webinar engaging. Otherwise, people are going to fall off. In order to get that interaction and engagement, ask questions. Ask people, hey, are you picking up what I'm putting down? Are you feeling this? Is this sounding good? Do you have any questions? Sometimes it's difficult because if people can't think of something right away, they won't say anything. So I like to prompt them with telling them what to tap in. So I might say something like, we're about to move into number 3. If you're ready for number 3, type 3. And that's just a simple way to get engagement going so that people don't fall asleep, they don't nod off, they kind of stay there with you. But you also want to make sure that your content is engaging, and that's why I really like the formula that I put together. Don't worry, I'm going to share that with you in just a second. Now we're going to move into the fourth way in order to run a successful webinar. So the fourth step in order to run a successful webinar is don't overwhelm, or do. So there are 2 specific methods in order to run a really successful webinar. The first is actually overwhelming the attendee with all of the content. So if you've got a really thick topic, like a really dense topic that you know has got a lot of moving parts, sometimes you do want to overwhelm them. You want to share with them everything that you've got. So by the end of it, they feel like, wow, she really knows what she's talking about. Now, it's important to understand that this strategy really only works when you're selling a done-for-you service. because you want them to be such in awe by how well you know your topic, but then also so overwhelmed that they're just thinking, I just want someone to take this off of my plate for me. And so when you're selling a done for you service, overwhelming them with all of your content is perfect. When you're selling a coaching service and it's your job to help people find the answers deep within themselves, and it's your job to help them self-reflect and, maybe also help them along the way with a little bit of consulting. But when you're doing a coaching service, your webinar needs to be just a little bit different. It doesn't necessarily need to overwhelm them with the how. It needs to more empower them with the belief that they can get results with you, with your method, with the program that you're offering. And when they believe they can get results with you and your method and your program, that allows them to take the next step. Now, helping them to come to that belief is a little bit different than overwhelming them with the how you're going to do it, okay? It's a very fine line and a fine distinction, but writing a really good persuasive webinar has those two elements. You're either going to overwhelm them so you can sell them your done for you service, or you're going to bring them through a journey of empowerment and belief, which is still teaching, it's still providing those aha moments, but it's going to get them to the point where they feel like empowered and that they can make a change and that you're the person to help them make that change and get to that next level. And now we're to the fifth and final step to create a successful webinar, and that's follow up. So a lot of times people believe that all of their sales will come from the live webinar, but the truth is, most of your sales are going to come from the follow-up. Some of them will come with the replay. The live webinar is the strongest and most powerful way in order to make sales, but you can get sales from a replay. So don't forget, send out the replay, send follow-ups with testimonials, send examples of how you've helped people in the past and where they were before they started with you. There's a very specific email sequence that you can send to follow up to help you make even more sales. If you need help with any of this, I've got a free training that's going to walk you through my process of creating that anti-webinar so you can create an engaging presentation. I'm also going to share with you how I book coaching clients from webinars. And finally, I'll share with you how I get webinar registration so cheap that it makes the return on investment that much higher. Now, you can get more details and join me on this training by clicking the link in the description box, or you can go directly to youvegotclients.com/anti-webinar in order to join. Thanks so much for joining me today. Don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe if you aren't already. And I'd love to hear your comments on how you've been able to run a successful webinar. Any other questions that you have, leave them in the comment box below and we'll get the conversation started. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.